Oh no, 9. All right, but be very, very brief. Number 1.
I have a question.
Stand up. Stand up. We are, remember, we are international. This day we are being projected live worldwide, by the way.
Like my brother there said, the commission has retired. Or rather, there is a term you used in March last year. Their time expired in office. The commissioners. But we are running again in March. That is an anniversary on its own. And these people have not been appointed again. Why is the reluctance by the government to appoint commissioners?
Thank you. Number 2. I hope you are taking down the questions very quickly, sir.
My name is Felix. I have a question. I have learned this morning that in the field of human rights practitioning, all rights are equal. But from my academic work class, I've been taught to know that there are 3 categories of rights. The 3 generations of rights, that is. You know them, and many of us, maybe just to the ICD, the first generation, the civil and political, the socio-cultural rights. And even in the international level, we have treaties, the ICCPR and the ICSR, that provide specifically for these rights. And I've come to learn that in practice, they're not the same. So what, as a commission, what levels or what measures are you taking to ensure that this knowledge is passed to maybe even to the institutions of learning like this one here, so that we get out knowing that all human rights are equal, and even to the village down there, so that all of us know that all these rights are equal.
Number 4. Very quickly, please, as the other one stops. Who was next?
I am next.
Please do, very quickly.
Yes, I'm Evans. And actually, my question was posed yesterday. I had a legitimate expectation that it would be answered during the presentation as promised, but it wasn't, so I'll ask it again. Limitation of rights, Article 24. The extent of limitation is to be reasonable and just in an open, democratic society. The question I posed was, how does the Commission determine reasonable? Because not every person is reasonable. Yeah. So reasonability varies. So what is the standard of the Commission when we talk about reasonable, when we talk about just, and when we talk about democratic society? Thank you.
Thank you. Number 4.
Yes, my name is Etienne Felix. I have a question and an additional information. I'll start with the question. My question is that you have talked about that when someone is found guilty with let us talk of major offenses like robbery with violence, the punishment is death penalty. But then it reminds me of the second protocol to the ICCPR. Second optional protocol, yes, that's the right term, where death penalty was outlawed, and also aware of the Muratetu case that was determined by the Supreme Court of Kenya in the year 2018. But so please give us clear information on the 2. On the second part, while you are writing on the board, you talked rights and responsibilities, but you measured your work on rights. So I would like maybe to add that information. During the BBI collection of information from people, they realized that our constitution was only having rights. It didn't have responsibility. So when you look at the amendment, the Constitutional Amendment Bill number of 2020, it provides in 18A the responsibilities of citizens. So you can give us. Yeah. Okay, I'll be reminded to ask you, that's what the proposal, but suppose it fails, what happens?
The next person, please.
Yeah, in our first presentation, you mentioned that the Commission works with both state and non-state actors, and among them was the National Police Service. I have an issue with the police. I'm actually reading a dissertation of police brutality and the prohibition of torture and cruel treatment. So since since the inception of IPOA, there are a lot of complaints that have been filed against the police. Actually, the estimate is 15,000 complaints, but IPOA has only managed to secure 6 convictions. They have mentioned that one of the challenges is non-cooperation, especially with the National Police Service. So what do you think should be done to ensure that justice is brought to victims of police brutality?
Thank you. Next.
Ezra Battalion, I have a question to the commission. In your first presentation, you say that you've only got 4 regions, offices in 4 regions. What are the efforts that you are doing so as to make sure that each county has an office? Because when we narrow down, we see that we have many violations of human rights in many places across the country. So I just wish to ask what are the efforts you are doing? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is David. It's just a communication. And I just want to talk about the United Nations. There are a number of them who are running to this country since to get evacuated due to the
Please speak louder so that
to get evacuated since they come from the north of Haiti. So they come to some of the refugee camps like Kakuma, Indika, and Dadaab in northern. So, and there are these areas which are affected by the situation. And then there is a Kisii and Kisii. So, how can you say that the people should be tolerated in this camp, and then some of them can be the terrorists or the Al-Shabaab? So, there is no way we are going to tolerate this.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know. Towards the end, it tended to be a question, but he has said no. That one is final. Take them home. Okay, next. Next, please. Yes, there was somebody. Who was next? Okay.
My name is Kisii, and I have 2 questions. In the you are seeing the university students starving, but the government has refused to hear the cry. But when the job seeker country staff and the refugee staff, we see Human Rights Commission coming in to give relief So is it a function of human rights? That human rights also stepping that scenario like you always do. And the second is sometimes back in the area we used to see the commission of buildings, but these people who are their buildings are being demolited, they are being demolished, they are not compensated, they are just left there hanging. So does Human Rights Commission also step in to fight for the rights of these people, their buildings, business enterprises were demolished?
Thank you. I think we are done. Oh, he skipped you. That's fine. I had.
In the first presentation, you mentioned that the commission work does have access to work, and it's used sometimes to the extent that you took some of your staff outside for security outside the country. Now, assuming that all of us here we are human rights defenders, don't we think that we are working ourselves human rights for others?
Thank you. Was that the last one? I had given numbers. Could we limit that first to that segment? Then, if there is time, remember there is Article 40, Article 3. Okay.
So thank you. I'll also try to be very brief, and some of the responses will be given by my colleague, Kevin. Advantage of being a human rights defender, I will respond to that. Kuna session on another program, kuna session on human rights defenders for you as a student. We discuss advocacy and what are the benefits when you do this work of the Good Samaritan work. Generations, first generation, second, what is the commission doing? Yeah, like what we are doing now. When we preach this one to you, over 100 years. Kila mmoja akipeleka huu ujumbe automatically itafika kila mahali. Institutions of higher learning, we also help co-review curriculum so that wanapofunza it captures the aspect of all rights are equal. And like university, we have human rights as a common core course for both first years, and it has that element that rights are equal in status. Yeah, that is the nature of the match we do. At the police station, at the police training, that is the ganjo. To participate in population there, training curriculum, and it has that element that human rights are equal in status. There is no the one that is superior than the other. So those are the few milestones that we do. Of course, if I could be a commissioner, I could also speak at the international level what we do when we are doing our reports in terms of advocating for rights being equal. So those are the little steps we do. Of course, it will be realized with time, but that is the field of human rights, and that is what we practice. Yeah, and then the death penalty, I think my colleague will touch on that. Rights and responsibilities, that is noted so that at least as we insist on the rights, we always talk about your responsibility as a citizen, your duty, and what you are supposed to comply. Yeah, only a few officers, many violations. I think Mr. Kevin will be touching on that. And also my colleague will touch on refugee. My colleague also will be touching on that. Human rights, when universities are starving, we don't come to help you get food. Yes. Yeah, but when those in the camp suffer, we go for them so much. I think the challenge we have, people don't know that human rights is not humanitarian. And as we are training you to be human rights defenders, we are not training you to be humanitarian aid workers. There are those organizations that, like for us, when you come when you are hungry, we don't provide food as a commission. We don't give clothing. But we will pester or we will ask or we will demand from the duty bearer who has that obligation to make sure you have food. So if you report to us you don't have food, we will praise the management. But the commission will not give food. So there is the aspect of humanitarian in human rights. So don't confuse between the two. So as you are training you to be human rights defenders, that you will send the way to Urumia one with this idea, you will not make it. Even for a day, because yeah, your work is to make sure people do their work. It is the county government to make sure people have access for road. It is your work to engage the county government on making sure that these people have roads that are passable. Si wewe kutoa pesa zako kwa mfuko na kuwajengea barabara. So there is that difference. So we don't provide any aid as a commission unless to be mwenyewe nione, for example, I've gone for an investigation, like somewhere in May we went for an investigation. You want to get information from someone who has not eaten. So it is just you as a person to see that wacha ninunulie chakula, then you can sit together and talk. But that one will not be accounted as part of the commission work. The commission within the cities and what the commission is doing to make sure they are represented. Mr. Kevin will be talking about the principles of human rights. Principle number 7 is the rule of law. If that house was built on an illegality, the Lord has said, if you come, whoever comes into equity must come with clean hands. Kama ile nyumba unaishi ilikuwa mahali which is a road reserve, how do you expect you to be protected? Hata kama you used millions to build it. But if it was demolished and we discover that probably it was done unfairly and we have all the rights to own the property, then the commission can take up the matter. And the commission does not refuse evictions. Hata sasa wakisema university ihamishwe, commission haitakataa. But ile itaangalia ni kwamba is the rule of law followed when they are evicting the university from here? Like I've had Kisumu wanataka watoe the Kisumu school from the there is a school within the town. They want to move it out of the town. So the commission will not like look at the matter of stopping the eviction, but the issue is the procedure within the tenets of the law. My colleague will touch on that. Principle number 7, the rule of law. So that is what we look at. If the law is broken, then we will have an issue. But if it is done entirely within the tenets of the law, safe and sound, we won't get into the matters. Human rights are threats, so we are getting into trouble. Yet to some extent, we may not have time, but we would have taken you through investigation and safety measures when you are doing investigation. The first thing is your safety first. If you think a matter is, we need you when you are alive more than when you are dead. So if you think the matter may be threatening to you, it is better not to do it. That is what we advise. Hata sisi wenyewe, kuna cases ambazo mnafuatilia then mnafika mahali mnasema no. Life is precious, and you are better off when you are alive than when you are dead. But we'll discuss much more when we talk about student, human rights, defenders. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I think the first response will be on budgets and how we survive. Justice must be done, though the heavens fall. So we have to do our work, despite the challenges. The government or the state is obligated to give us resources. It has to. So we'll get the resources from the state, but then they're not sufficient. That's why we get resources from development partners. We are here, courtesy of the European Union. The Norwegian embassy gives us resources, the Dutch embassy gives us resources, the Switzerland embassy gives us resources, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, they give us resources. So we make proposals. Some of them call for proposals, we respond. Some of them we make just applications, and they help us in intervening human rights challenges. For example, the Norwegian government has really supported us on economic, social, and cultural rights issues, and other supporting partners. So it's a balance that we have to make. We have to be independent and get resources from the state, but then for us to function and implement some of our activities, we have to get support from development partners. The commissioners, someone said it's an anniversary since the exit of our commissioners. Yes. It's very true. On a negative front though, because operating without policymakers is at some point tricky. If you remember, there's a time someone went to court to challenge a decision by EACC because they didn't have commissioners who are policymakers. So for us, I'll say it's a political process. Some of us are aware there's a number of judges who were supposed to be appointed, and the list is lying somewhere, right? Some of them are here. Oh, some of them are here. So I think it's a fact that it's a legal question that requires a political solution. What can we do? We go to court, we'll get the orders, and then see the orders about the judges. Yes. Have they been implemented? No. They never I mentioned about impunity, the culture of impunity in the country. So yes, it's a reality, it's a challenge, but we hope and we approach the executive through the necessary channels, through the Office of the Attorney General and Department of Justice, and through other relevant channels to try and see if we can get the process rolling. How the Commission determines reasonability standards. I'll give you an example on the use of force and firearms by the police. They are trained, they are told when and when not to use the firearms. And do we know the instances where the police are allowed to use firearms? Instances where law enforcement officers are allowed to use firearms. One, protect lives, protect property. So I'll give you an example where there are students who are demonstrating, They're throwing stones. Please don't throw stones. And the police are called to quell the riots. And you get the police have shot a number of students through the back. Is that reasonable force? One it tells you that person was running away, right? Because if that person is facing you and you're armed, where will you shoot the person? In the front. So clearly that is not reasonable force. So if a person is escaping from lawful custody and you have a fire, where will you aim? In the head or the legs? So if you find someone is alleged to have escaped, trying to escape from lawful custody, and the person is shot at the head, what would you call that? What do you call that? Unnecessary use of force. So there's no standard line where I'll say this is the standard way where we're supposed to use the force. If a police officer comes to arrest you and you resist arrest, what do you expect? They use the cuffs, yes, and they lift you here. But if you cooperate and you play the role as a responsible citizen who knows the responsibilities, then such force will not be used. So we look at the circumstances. I remember a case somewhere in Nairobi where robbers were caught in a car. They were told to come out of the car. They were told to lie on the road. Remember, it was Langata Road, and they were shot while lying on the road. Is that reasonable force? No. So for us, we look at the circumstances, we investigate the case, and then that will determine if there was reasonability and it was justified. So it comes on a case by case basis and looking at the circumstances. At some point, you have to involve other experts in the fields. We'll need maybe doctors, we need people, pathologists to help us figure out what really transpired. Death penalty, section 204 of the Penal Code. You know what it says? Yes. But remember, the Supreme Court said death sentence is not mandatory. But still, that is the law. So until and unless the people who are charged with changing the law, they do that, then that is the law. The judicial officer will be bound to pass that sentence. But we appreciate the country, and especially the Commission has been on the forefront in the abolishment of the death penalty. So that's why my colleague mentioned here, the last persons to be hanged were the 82 Air Force School persons. Since then, the sentences are converted to life. And even for us, we're still asking the question, when someone sentences you to life, that's sentencing you to death. Mtu akikwambia unaenda jela maisha yako yote. Let it be definite. Even if it's 200 years, let's know it's 200 years. But that's a debate for another day. Working state and non-state actors. And then I pour only 6 convictions. Justice for victims of brutality. And for us, we've been very active, especially when it comes to matters of torture. And the Torture, Prevention of Torture Act gave us a lot of responsibilities. They gave us, they widened our mandate for us, just reading it with the Coroner's Act, for us to investigate matters of torture, for us to create awareness, especially on the Prevention of Torture, Torture Act. There's what we call command responsibility. That's why you remember at the ICC, we had the police commissioner, the then police commissioner going to face the law. We try as much as possible to get the perpetrators. And if not, as a commander, you ought to have known, you should have known or ought to have known what is happening under your command. And the same challenges you're facing are the same challenges IPOA is facing. Who are these you're investigating? Who has the evidence? Do you remember the PEV case in Kisii? where someone was caught on camera shooting a protester, if you can't remember. Short of it, at the end, it was discovered that the firearm that they obtained from that person is not the same firearm that released the bullet. So these are the people who are custodians of these firearms, the people who help in investigations. So it's a bit tricky, it's a bit challenging, but we don't give up. Those convictions serve as a deterrent to other such violators. Opening of more offices. If resources allow, we can open as many offices as we could. But now we have resource constraints. So we have to be innovative. We have opened a few offices at the Huduma centers, the officers we post there receive the complaints and address the work of the commission at the Huduma centers. We really work closely with the human rights defenders and the civil society. These are the people we work with on the ground. So we try and build their capacity, we engage them, and then whenever violations occur on the ground, the first point of call, we call them. Whenever we hear something on the ground, we reach them, and we work closely with the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, who has a network of human rights defenders in the country. So those are the people we work with closely, and we network with them. Lastly, on the closure of the Dab refugee camp, I say we close up the camp so that wale magaidi ambao wako huko warudi kwao. What would you say, Wakili?
I will not have allowed that.
You know, why would you not have allowed that?
The reason, under the international laws, we said that the principle of non-refoulement stipulates that if you are going to, a refugee comes to your country to seek asylum, you're not allowed to return him back where his life is in danger.
So we're having protests in a university. Students have destroyed some property. The police come and find you in your room, they clobber you. How would you feel? You are not part of the protest. You even didn't know they were protesting. As they get you, they clobber you and break your leg. Not just.
No.
So why are you closing the refugee camp? Because of a few elements. And yet you have a law enforcement agency that is supposed to investigate. It has the resources they need. They have the intelligence that we need. They have networks to the ground. They could use that to nail or get the perpetrators or the suspects and not close the camp because of a few elements. I guess I've responded to. Have I? Yes. Any other question that I haven't responded to? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are we going to session 2 or we exercise our right to Article 43? Okay. So thank you so much. Because of time, we have so many activities to go for through the day. What we will do is we want to be fair to each other, so we permit you to exercise your right under Article 43. And then after that, if you have a very burning question, just write it. We will have a final plenary session where we will combine many of these questions. So if we have left you out, don't feel you have been left out. Our human rights club permits everyone to participate. You have a right to participate. Don't we have participation in our constitution? Yes, we permit. So you have all that right to exercise. Let me call on the person who is exercising the authority over you to indicate how you will exercise that right under Article 43. It will be a brief one because of the next session. So if you are told to stand out there, queue, take your tea and snacks, do so. If you are told to run, even to Kisii town and back, please do obey. Thank you. Who is taking over? Thank you so much. But before we do so, could we? Yeah, so that's why I say before we do those two things, number one, we want to recognize the presence of our dean, founding dean. Please, Mr. Mausa, come over to say hi. Those of you who are from other schools, you may not know that he was our founding dean. Without him, the law school would not be. And that's why we are here. So what we're coming, just say one word, and then you will be given directions on how that will be done. Thank you so much. And before we do so, but perhaps, no, let him speak first.
Afternoon. Welcome to the school. We started this school at was a room of a kitchen. So I think I'm doing the history. So we are so privileged that I think when you're in Kisii, you cannot go wrong. So I just need to deliver my congratulations that we are still reading at the School of Law. Our record has not been broken. Maybe I'll organize with the dean, but for those, you are graduating this year. We shall organize what we call a free School of Law conference. The mapping, so that when you go there, you will pass, don't fly cars. So we wish you the best. We are known in Kenya as the School of Law which fought the battles. We are not spoon-fed. So I wish you the best, and I know you'll get the best. I think this course we are having is what we are having. I think we are now, it's a big class this month. You can get some ideas from here about international human rights. Thank you, I wish the best.
Thank you so much, our founding dean. So in order to exercise our right properly, we must consider whether you have enough energy to do so. Would we have a hearty clap for our presenters for the session that we have had this morning? I hear that is what we call factorial. But let me try and exercise it by giving you 3 factorial only to do. So let's try. You understand what factorial is? One of you does basic mathematics in the university.
Yes, we do.
He is the only one excused. So factorial 3, isn't it? Okay, ready, go. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, we are going to take a tea break. We are sorry tumechelewa kidogo. Yes, so for order, we are requesting us to go in order. So people are sitting on this accorder. Mtaamka, mkitia hapo mchukue